there are two kinds of people engaged in automobiles. One is people who are upfront, driving sports cars, supercars. They are motorsport drivers, they are professional rally drivers, autocross drivers, Formula One drivers, or people who are, owning some very unique cars, classic cars, restoring their own vintage cars. On the other hand, there's the second kind of people who are always at the back end. They are sort of what I call the unsung heroes. When I say at the back end, I mean they are engaged more in activities like servicing a rally team or marshalling a motorsports event, marshalling a rally event, marshalling a Formula One event, or let's say the chief of fire and rescue. These are those kind of people who have been highly trusted by some of the greatest drivers in our country with respect to marshalling them or with respect to creating vehicles for them that are extremely robust, with respect to giving them service at the back end in the midst of the toughest of the rally events or any other motorsporting events, with respect to fire and rescue. One of them just happens to be a good friend of mine. His name is Parvinder Chawla, aka Poddy, and I'm thrilled to bring him on screen with me, having an amazing discussion with him, getting to know more about his experiences in all of the fields that I just mentioned earlier. Introducing Parvinder Chawla, aka Poddy.
Scrutiny it is.
Whatever you,
FMSCI, rally, track, autocross, khana
just
banana,
खाना बनाना रहने दो उसके बीच में मिला
and
actually.
then your historical experience in running a workshop.
Okay.
So, first question being first question, where did all of this start and how did it start? I want to know the entire journey.
So, where do we start from? Okay. The whole journey about liking cars, I think that is every boy's childhood dream to like cars. I have somehow was a little more into it. And I don't know, God's gift or something, technically, I don't know why I got where I got it from, but I had all the interest in the cars. I was in the sixth when nobody had heard about go-karts in India. I made my go-kart with just nuts and bolts, because there was no welding experience and all that. With a generator engine, with no clutch, with cycle wheels and my toy as a pedal car parts, which I somehow still it ran, but when you turn it broke. So because that puny little nuts, whatever the
Acha,
small
that
brain.
go-kart you were talking about.
Yeah. That is the childhood part. Okay, the love for bikes and cars, bikes more and then initially than cars. But the love for jeeps was always there. Jeeps being because my other passion is wildlife, going to jungle and all that, and that whole idea about what can take you there is a jeep, So, and that World War II Ford Jeep was the passion to have, it was like a dream to have.
Low bonnet जो
Low
release
bonnet
थी,
and all
हाँ.
that. So eventually bought one, and then
Which year did you buy this? कब लिया आपने?
I bought one in '98 something.
Okay.
I found one in '98. Well, in those days, if you go to Corbett,
Huh.
after Ramnagar was nothing.
Huh.
It was like jungle, absolutely. So even Ramnagar was not a big place; a very small place. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Bandhavgarh or something. That was back of Beyonds. If you go there, so finding a mechanic was next to impossible. And when you have limited money and you have to invest in the cameras also and the Jeep also, there are compromises in building the vehicle always because the photography can't be compromised. So the car was compromised. It was as built as good as could be. But
And photography is not cheap.
I know. So
It's a very expensive hobby.
So we had to take care of two girlfriends, very expensive ones. So one had to suffer. So what got me into knowing more about mechanics of the car, because when you're stuck, you have to fix it yourself.
Okay.
In the middle of jungle, you get stuck, and sometimes you're able to find help. Sometimes to drag it back. Sometimes you don't, but you still fix it somehow. You know, I have had a my nut bolts of my propeller shaft came off, so I just had nothing at all four vibration, and it came off somewhere in the middle of Corbett across the river, and I had to cross the river back and come back. Two of us. The other guy was mechanically zero. I had a toolkit with me and all that, so I opened the rear seat nut bolts. I remember, and on two bolts, I fixed the propeller shaft, and they came back. And we forgot about it. We came to Delhi also, and Delhi also 3-4 months we forgot about it. You know, so incidents like this got you into the car more and all that. That is where it started, the whole love for cars, and then that that whole idea of building the indestructible vehicle. You know, keep it simple, purposeful, and but it should run and it should not. You should be able to do everything. And then loading it up, you know, making a caravan out of it with an open jeep, you know, because everything has to, your food has to go with you, your cameras have to go. That is where the whole, I think the whole building started personally with my own vehicles before I went commercial about it or got things to do commercially. That's where it started basically. And slowly and gradually the photography started taking a backseat and cars became more.
But this is quite recent. I remember photography तो आप कर रहे थे काफी टाइम अभी
काफी
क्या
ज्यादा photography
12
करते
साल
रहते
पहले
हैं।
तक तो कर ही
हाँ
रहे थे।
हाँ photography I actually properly left photography, never left it. I still keep doing it. I still keep wasting money and buying cameras on it for no use. But commercially I stopped doing in about 2007 or something. So 2007, 2008 when I was finished my Bandhavgarh project and all that. That's when it started taking, I mean, it was not a choice. It was just by chance. I was making my own, that Willys Jeep into a mutt and the new American Jeep. So I had got this Ustad ji from Dehradun. And I said, "Okay, I can't go to a workshop every day. I need somebody." I was staying alone in a big garden in Greater Noida. I made a small shed. I called him in. I said, "You come and make. This is what I want to be made. You stay here. Make." He was also retired kind of a thing from Dehradun. His sons were taking care of his workshop. But he was a great master man to build bodies and all that with his hand. Got him one help also. And we started making the Jeep. There was a friend of mine, he's also a photographer. He came over and saw this thing happening. He came back, mailed me a couple of photographs. And he says, "I want a Jeep like this." Yeah. Now he's rich. Okay, so and I said, "Yeah, you go to Punjab or you go to Mayapuri, they'll make it." I thought he's asking me where to buy it from. He says, "No, you build me one." I said, "My landlord will kick me out of the house. I'm already making one. I can't start it." And when this conversation was going on, and he was after me, so I gave him an obscene amount. Okay, this is what I've gone through.
And he said, "Okay."
And this is what it's going to cost you to make this. He wanted a really big footer and independent suspension and whatever 550 Wrangler looking thing, but one big 36-inch tires and all that. Also a dream of us, but nowhere could the money match to do it personally. So I said, "Okay, we'll do it." But I said, "Let me figure out a place, although I can't do it at home." And before I could say Jack Robinson, the guys wired me some money. He says, "Okay, go find a Jeep first. Let's start the build later." But he's like so desperate. So I said, "Okay." We started looking for a Jeep, found a Jeep. Meanwhile, a friend said, "Okay, my plot is lying empty. It's a little far from here, but in Greater Noida only. Why don't you start your workshop there? At least, I mean, go and make this over there before your landlord kicks you out. Because you're doing commercial activity in the house. It won't be apni Jeep tak theek tha, you know. When you start making somebody else's work also." I said, "Okay." And Ustad ji and that Johnny that I had, they were excited. "Yes, sir, kholte hain apni workshop, kholte hain. You take." I said, "I'm not here. I'm doing photography. I'm always traveling." And they said, "No, we'll take care of the workshop. You keep doing a bit. Just open the workshop. We'll take care of it." And trust me, there was not one holiday I could take from the workshop since that day. So going for shoots was totally out because you get trapped into this. And I didn't know, if you open a workshop, there are so many cars today. People keep looking for you and keep coming. You know, so that's where the workshop thing started last. But then I got so frustrated that, you know, my own Jeeps took a back seat. They were never completed. And my own car was going back, and I was just doing, all the guys were doing work for other cars. And there was so much work. By God's grace, good work. And then I met my old friend Raj Kapoor just before the Formula One, and during the first Formula
Okay.
One, he kept on saying that I am busy with other stuff, doing shoots and events and all that. And my workshop is bleeding. What are you doing here? Shut your workshop. Come over. I said, no, I'm planning to move to Bandhavgarh. Yes, you're stupid. You've got a young daughter and all that. You're going there. Come and meet me. I said, okay, let's just Formula One finish and then we'll see. Formula One finished. Next morning, again called. So what have you thought? Are you coming over? I said, let me think. No, come over. Let's sit and talk. So went and met him, and he was like genuinely in trouble because performance was not doing. He was busy with all his events, and he was doing good with that Desert Storm and all that stuff, which took a lot of his time. Because that time they didn't have so many professional boys working for them and all that. So they were JD and Raj were doing all the running around. They do it still now. They do it.
Yeah.
And so Raj told me that. So I took over that offer, started running performance.
This was which year? Which year was this?
2011 November, or just after first Formula One.
Oh, okay.
11th November, I remember it was. So I joined.
I think pretty much that is the time when I met you, because I remember I picked up the Thar in 2012.
12 something, yeah. That's what because all the Terrain Tiger and all were happening that time. And all the
NIOC
off-roading,
वगैरह सब हो
NIOC
रहा
and
था,
all.
हाँ, and then मैं,
Started with NIOC and then Terrain Tiger.
because I remember 12 I picked up, and then probably 13 or something I came to you.
Yeah, that's what we met for the first time, right?
Oh.
And that's where it started. 7-8 years passed with Raj only. But great learning curve, great experiences, great teams to work with. I was not into motorsports as per se so much. I was into off-roading, So rally is more of rules, regulations, roll cages. Off-roading is freehand. You make your car, you go. All the thing is it should pass.
हाँ, but I think वो भी इसीलिए है because ऑफ-रोडिंग का अब जैसे RFC है, अगर आप RFC में पार्टिसिपेट करोगे तो उसमें भी रूल्स रेगुलेशंस वगैरह सारे
That came in much later, but in India.
हाँ.
In India, if apart from RFC, off-roading is a leisure way. It's a clubs made themselves, like you used to go. All the
महिंद्रा
clubs.
के इवेंट्स होते थे.
Mahindra के events भी होते थे, तो कोई जितने rules and regulations, it was more of just fun, just going out for fun. Whereas rally was high speed. I always call it off-roading at high speed. So.
हाँ,
So
naturally.
the cars have to be made in a different way. The safety gear is much more approved. It is governed by FIA, the body that governs motorsports all over the world. And then it's body under it. Every country has a body. It's FMSCI in India. So I remember when I joined Raj, and the Mahindra team came with the XUV with us. The first one was already
For the rally prep.
for the rally prep.
Acha.
Okay. So Raj got it, and he was like, I joined in November, December. Going back also, I knew Raj always as a friend. So whenever anybody used to come for a rally car to me, I would send it to Raj, because I said I'm not qualified to go through all the rules, and never got down to reading them also. Unfortunately, now I go by them. So when I joined Raj, I was just learning the ropes, how the workshop works and all that. And Raj just came one day. February is Desert Storm. In early December, he's getting a brand new XUV, which was just launched that year. And we didn't know anything about the vehicle. He says the other one in Bangalore, they got 3 months ago or 4 months ago. And they're already preparing it. We've got this other vehicle to work as a team. I am busy with the Desert Storm preparations. You have to build this, please oversee this. And I was like taken aback, because first of all, it's a brand new car. Nobody's worked on it before. Thank God we had the company support, but company support is very limited too. It had about 7-8 ECUs, and even the rear wiper had to be removed because we had to put fiberglass doors and all that. And knew nothing about it. I said, Raj, I need your guidance to get me. He just gave me all the PDF files. Okay, this is the roll cage. Go through it. And these are the rules, So this is how rally runs. Well, go ahead. He said, don't waste time. Please start opening it. And हमारा दिल भी नहीं था इतनी नई गाड़ी खोलने का, एकदम brand new paper चढ़े हुए सब फिर
Not only about नई गाड़ी, नया
model. People were dying to see it.
देख तो लेने थे.
And they just started that day. okay, day and night, not coming home for three days, staying in the workshop only because the thing had to be stripped apart, then roll cage made inside, then seats ordered, seats have to be fitted, and then came the whole pressure that Gaurav Gill will be driving it.
Totally.
So I said, now, although I know him as a child, since childhood, and he's a good kid, and I always have all the respect for him, but I also know that he comes and his basic idea is, I am the driver, you are the builder of the car. Don't tell me take care of this or take care of that. You take care of all that. I will just go out and drive. If it breaks, I'll park the car on the side and come out. It's okay. So we all know he drives very carefully and he takes care of the car. But he also drives. He just goes to race. And so he came for the fittings and all that. He wanted steering 6 inches behind, and pedals behind, and sitting low. And
ये आई थिंक तब की बात है, मुझे याद है कि राज सर ने परफॉर्मेंस के पेज पे एक फोटो डाली थी, गौरव गिल कटिंग द
cutting
टायर्स.
tires. That was a little later after this.
अच्छा,
And
but
during that time only.
अच्छा, during
During that time only, but the tires came in later than because he was MRF or that time MRF, yeah. So MRF sent him the tires, whatever they had racing. Then he spoke with somebody in France, the company that designs the tires. They said that you have to make these grooves extra for wet. For wet, for sand, you have to make these grooves extra. And Gaurav Gill, being Gaurav Gill, he didn't let anybody waste their time. He said, I'll do this, मेरा काम है, मैं करूँगा, tires are my duty. And he was sitting there making the grooves of all the 40-50 tires that came. It took him almost 3 days to do it.
Serious, my God.
And he had that fancy little heated thing with groove cutting shape, different shapes, and he used to mark and he used to make the grooves himself. And when you see dedication like that, you are more dedicated to make this car better,
Maybe that's why he was doing it.
Yeah. So
Maybe that's why he was doing
and
it.
see, when in 2011, very little was known to power diesel engines. There were no cars running on diesel in the rally. Okay.
I still remember एक ही चीज उस टाइम पे आई थी डीजल इंजन्स को ट्यून करने के नाम पे, ट्यूनिंग बॉक्स नाम की चीज आई थी. Dieseltronic, हाँ. Basically fooling the ECU.
That also, no, that just increases the rail pressure. It still is the best thing, okay, for diesel. It's still the best thing, okay.
नहीं, best तो है, but basically कर क्या
But
रही है?
that was, now they're much more advanced.
हाँ. See, now you have remaps.
So I know that time Pawan called from Race Dynamics and I said, "Kebi, I've just developed this Dieseltronic. I'll retune it specially for it, but please मेरे लगा दो because मेरे स्टिकर लगा दो, मेरा ये Dieseltronic free दे जाओ, चला लो इसमें." And we had very little support from the company in terms of tuning up. They all came, they were really good help, but they were good help in removing a couple of ECUs. They sent us an open architecture ECU with the guys who said, but they are tuned. They came and told us themselves that we are tuned with warranties and life of the engine in mind. We are not tuned for breaking the engine. So he says we keep everything at 50%. So if the rail pressure can take 100 bars, we'll keep it at 50 bars and say this is the maximum. So I said, no, please. We kept on forcing them to increase. That was one part of the challenge again on one side. Every time you drive, one DTC would come up, something or the other would come up. I mean, you won't believe you remove the rear wiper and the check engine light would come and the car would go in limp mode. So the actual car initially ran with the rear wheel motor wrapped in a sponge foam and kept on the side or the side panel inside the car because we can't remove it. The moment the company could not remove that, it had a separate ECU to run it.
The rear wiper motor, right?
The rear wiper motor, because the rear door was fiberglass, so we had to remove the door only. वो fiberglass पे.
So basically वो तार आपने connected छोड़ के you just
पूरा मोटर ही लगा के कपलर लगा के मोटर रखो. The moment you remove the coupler, a DTC would come up, error used come and it used to go into limp mode. And so later, a couple of races later, they were able to remove it, but the company could not remove it. They said we didn't make it to remove it. We made it to integrate the whole thing. Everything is integrated. So, anyways, the challenges of making that car, and yes, it had a lot of suspension problems because getting new shockers developed, nobody had them in time. Eventually, we got Rigers, and which then it started running well. But before it, we got Rigers also induction there. We made history. That was I think, most proud moment of mine in the whole scenario of motorsports history. We won by 15 minutes, Dakshin Dev Rally. First diesel car in India to participate in the extreme rally and win by 15 minutes. And the second competitor also was an XUV, a diesel car.
Dakshin Dare mein Gaurav was driving.
Gaurav was driving, the other cars Lohit was driving. They were first and second. Maruti sponsored and Maruti was out. There was first 1, 2, 3 was all Mahindra. So and diesel cars participating and beating all the petrol cars and all that in extreme category and winning. And winning that also by 15 minutes. So we came, Gaurav changed his clothes and sweat and all that, was stealing a t-shirt and all that, sat down, had a cold drink, then the second car came in. So
And I think that was the same time when you guys had built the Performance Thar also.
Performance Thar came right after that. I mean, during Dakshin Dev and all, I was sitting with Mahindra and Raj had also said it. So I said, I think the Thar is a good platform, and they were laughing at me. So it's a very heavy, old design Jeep. I said, no, but it's a solid 4x4. It has got a lot of potential as a rally car.
हाँ, front IFS
And
है.
Bijoy, the motorsport head, and Mahindra heard this. I was talking to him only. He took it seriously. That time it didn't pay much heed, but it stuck with him. And a month or two, a couple of months later, he calls me.
हाँ.
He says, Paddy, your dream project. I've got your dream project. I said, what? He says, I'm sending you a Thar, make it for rally. I was like, that was...
This is that super Thar you're talking about.
And there started a different design build only. You had to strip it, body, sab khali and all that.
I still remember, I mean, वो अभी भी छपी हुई है मेरे माइंड में, orange color की performance, orange की पूरी body बनाई,
everybody wanted to drive it.
White rims.
And Raid the Himalaya के बाद, bringing it back to Delhi, I gave my friend the XC500. I love driving that Thar because again, low position, पीछे जब you're sitting behind the B pillar.
There is something about that driving position, I know.
It's amazing. It's a learning curve. Everybody teaches you something. Gaurav Gill taught me a lot. And different drivers have different styles. He said, at that speeds, I don't want to see here. If there's a big hole here, I'm already in it. So I have to tune myself to see over there. So he would put 2 2-inch tapes on the top of the glass, 2 at the bottom. So his view was only this. So this will, and he would sit at the back behind the B pillar.
Correct.
So I have to make my judgments from here. If I see a bump there, I have to decide now what I want to do. So it's a great learning curve. That's why, whereas Sunny Sidhu, again a great veteran old driver, was driving for Mahindra for us. He likes to sit in aggressive mode. He likes to sit like this, attacking the road. Abhishek Mishra, being short, again, not a Mahindra driver, but he also likes that aggressive stance. But
Abhishek Mishra was mostly on Esteems, if I remember.
Earlier on Esteems, when at autocross and the thing, then in Vitaras.
Vitaras, okay.
Came to become the fastest driver, and he still is one of the leading drivers. Great guy, was a biker, started from biking and came over here. Good friend, nice guy.